Mrs. Teresa Foo, NUS Pro-Chancellor, distinguished guests, graduates, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. What a great honor for me to stand here with you today. The last time I was dressed like one of you, this was more than 30 years ago, when I graduated from this very fine institution, which I proudly call my alma mater, the National University of Singapore. First graduating from the engineering school, I started my career with Hewlett-Packard, where I toiled away with inkjet printer design and development. I later took a program in management of technology with the School of Business, which equipped my transition from an engineer to a venture capitalist. So after 3 years of engineering and 5 years of running an incubator for the government, I became a VC at the age of 32. When I joined GGV in Shanghai in 2006, I was in my late 30s, married with 3 kids, 7, 2, and 1-year-old then. Not exactly the best time for uprooting. Yet with the unbelievable grace of my wife, Serene, we did it anyway. We moved into a completely new living environment, Shanghai. But Shanghai was definitely not as convenient as environment as Singapore back then. It was the pre-Taobao, pre-Alipay days, and driving in China didn't come naturally for us Singaporeans. I did get my driving license. On top of that, I have to adapt to a new way of life and a career that rely heavily on relationships, which I barely had back in China. So these seemingly random leaps of faith perhaps are the grandest venture investments I've made. I'm not sure how many of you want to become a venture capital, but I've always held the belief that every one of us is, in essence, a venture capitalist. Every decision we make in life is a wager with our time invested in something somewhere, making trade-offs and sacrifices. The past 17 months you have spent in the graduate school were a bet that the knowledge and the exposure would pave the way for a better future. Today marks a milestone of this bet. People who have contributed to your journey, either financially or emotionally, are here with you today. With a chorus of good lucks and best wishes, you are entering the next chapter, what we investors refer normally as a post-IPO phase. As it is in the post-IPO era, great companies are being defined. Your career and to some extent, your life will be shaped by how you navigate the path after today. With that, I would like to send you off with these 3 tips that you might find helpful in the days to come. First is to let your passion lead you through the exciting unknown ahead and the inevitable challenges that every one of us will find. We are going through the most dramatic change the world has seen since World War II. Our generation lived through the prime time of globalization. The world came closer together with free flow of goods, talent, and capital. This is especially true after the Cold War and China joining the WTO in 2001. The ever-expanding economic pie, a global economy where free trade triumphs over ideological differences. These notions that were taken for granted for the longest time now seem to be dissolving. So the world just came out from a global pandemic. There's now an ongoing war in Europe, while the imminent threat of climate change requires global collaboration like never before. But the world seems to be torn apart by geopolitical tensions and rivalry between superpowers. So amidst this great deglobalization, or some might call it reglobalization, we're entering a multipolar world. The pace and scale of change is overwhelming. Now, some might be tempted to close your eyes and let life sweep you along, or what the Chinese might call it 躺平, or lying down. I would encourage you to lean in and instead of lying down. Embrace your passion and let them guide you. That's how you will find certainties amidst all the uncertainties and seize possibilities amid the seemingly impossible. A little story of myself. My first job out of school was a cushy one with a ladder to climb Hewlett-Packard. Hewlett-Packard sent me to Silicon Valley quite often, where I was captivated by how innovation was transforming the US economy. Incidentally, at that time, the National Science and Technology Board in Singapore, now called A*STAR, had an initiative to transform our then trade-driven economy to an innovation one. They were looking for someone to run an incubator. I had the view that this transition would be critical for all Asian economies, not just Singapore. And so when I got the phone call, I decided to take that leap of faith and a pay cut. It was still the era of rising dragons and tigers, the rise of the Asian economies, fueled by foreign investment. So for the first 2 years, my passion was mostly met with bafflement and skepticism. What startup, entrepreneurship, that's not real. However, the momentum started to shift after the Asian financial crisis in '97. By 1999, the rest of the world caught on to the internet fever spread from Silicon Valley, entering the dot-com bubble. When the dot-com startup boom was bubbling up in 2000, the US venture capital firm DFJ ePlanet offered me a job to join their Asian team, and I did. My first investment at DFJ was a small company at that time called Baidu. We led the round and got 25% of the company at a cost of $7.5 million. That was September 2000 that year. That was not long after the bubble started to burst. The NASDAQ peaked in March 2000, and by the end of the year, it lost 40% of its value. Just when you thought that it cannot get worse, 9/11 happened in 2001 and SARS later in 2003. Many of the dot-com companies had gone bust, losing most investors' confidence. Baidu, despite having a great product, had no business model. I was not sure how long I could keep my job. I did it wholeheartedly anyway because it was what I loved to do. Long story short, Baidu did go public on NASDAQ in 2005, soared 5 times at the day of IPO, became a $4 billion company on the first day of trade, and then the most valued tech company in China worth $40 billion in 2010. This put me on the map of venture capital. Now, I know following your passion is probably the most given advice in the history of commencement speeches. As most common sense in life, it is much easier said than done. To be able to follow your passion, you must first know what your passion is. With the overstimulated media environment we are in today, it's not always easy to know where your heart is. So this leads me to my second tip. Know yourself, know your strength and your limitations. Then define your own path. On average, I meet about 300 founders every year. Regardless of what they are trying to build, I always ask them many questions, but essentially trying to find answers to 2 questions. Why you? Why now? The answer to these 2 questions are pretty good indicators of how far the founders could go. The same philosophy applies to how I raise my children. I have 3 kids, 2 girls and a son. My 2 girls are either already completing or going to college, and my son is 11th grade. I'm almost done. I'm also graduating. Even with the same genes, they are marvelously different. My eldest daughter did a dual degree in computer science and chemistry. My second daughter is doing digital art. Guess what my son likes? Not science, not engineering like his dad. This kid is into food and hospitality, spending his summer interning in restaurants and hotels, cooking me steak and tiramisu for my birthday. The kitchen seems to be where he finds solace and joy. For him, it is a way of defining himself, like investing for me. Just as advised my son, I hope you get to know yourself, know your strength and your limitations. It may be the road less taken, but it is the only way forward if you want to live a life true to yourself. No one is perfect. Your superpower and limitations are usually different sides of the same coin. And if you want to achieve something bigger than yourself, you need to build a team around your limitations. The best founders do that. They hire people for their strength instead of trying to do all by himself or herself. So my final tip today for you is to find your own community. Those who see and understand you, willing to shoulder your burdens, tell you the inconvenient truth, carry you through failure, and celebrate your success. The journey for me in the last 30 years was a bumpy one. While your individual path will definitely be different, expect obstacles and challenges along the way. For me, it wouldn't be possible to have done what I've done without the unwavering support from my wife and my family. Without my fellow managing partners at GGV, Jenny Lee, Hans Tong, Glenn Solomon, GGV could not be where it is today. A true partnership is where strong opinions are loosely held, collective decisions are made after good-spirited debates, shared mission, diverse viewpoints, and an open culture that allows intellectual honesty are what make GGV stand out. So regardless of what you aim to build or where you aim to go, remember that success will be exponentially sweeter when you have people to share it with. It is love that gives meaning to success. So take a moment, look around you, the people who came here for you today, take in all the support and love you feel now and take it forward. Congratulations, class of 2023. May your future be filled with fearless choices, exciting rides, and boundless love. Thank you.